Previously, we've talked about different ways of how to solve quadratic equations. Right? We've been given equations in this format, right? ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Right? These are quadratic equations. And we've learned about methods like the square root method, factoring, completing the square. Right? Well, today we're talking about a new method called the quadratic formula. Right? And before I actually tell you what that formula is, let's talk about why we need it. Right? We need it because factoring doesn't always work, and because completing the square, right, it gets messy when a is not equal to 1 and or b is odd. Right? So we use quadratic formula basically when the other methods don't work. Right? So when factoring doesn't work, or when we don't want to do completing the square, because we don't have an a value of 1, and because we have a b value that's not even. Alright, so here's our actual quadratic formula. Right? So let's start from the top. When you're solving a quadratic equation in the format, there should be an in right here, in the format ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, your solutions can be found by using this formula. So this is our quadratic formula. X is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. Okay? All right, you will need to memorize this formula. And I should say that this method, quadratic formula, will work all the time. I also want to talk about this symbol right here, plus or minus. What does that mean? What that really means is that this can potentially give you two solutions. One solution would be negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. The other one would be the opposite of b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right? So this is a shorthand way of saying there's one that has this plus here, and then there's another solution that has the minus. Alright, so let's look at an example. 2x squared minus x minus 5 is equal to 0. Right? And before we actually get in this example, I should mention, right, again, why do we have the quadratic formula? Because, well, if you were to try this one with magic x, you have negative 1x on the bottom and negative 10x squared on top. Right? Magic x doesn't work. Right? We can't find numbers that multiply to get negative 10x squared and add up to negative 1x. Right? So that doesn't work. And also, completing the square wouldn't be such a great idea here because, well, we have an odd number here in the middle for our b value, and also our a value is not 1. Right? So because of those reasons, we need this new method, quadratic formula. Right? So you do want to have this memorized. Right? Again, x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Right? So let's go ahead and plug in our values. Alright, so first of all, right here we have the opposite of b. Well, what's our b value? If we look right here, our b value is negative 1. Right? So we have the opposite of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So again, our b value is negative 1. And then minus 4 times a times c. The a value here is 2. And then our c value is negative 5. And then all of that needs to be divided by 2 times a. And our a value is 2. Alright, so let's simplify this. Let's see, the opposite of negative 1, well, that would be positive 1, plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared, that's 1. And then right here, be careful, negative 4 times 2 times negative 5. Well, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, and then negative 8 times negative 5 would be positive 40. All divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. Right, so we end up with x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 41 over 4. Okay, and that right there actually is our answer. Okay, and let me be clear again about what this plus or minus means. Right? What that really means is that here we have two solutions. One of the solutions is 1 plus the square root of 41 over 4. The other solution is 1 minus the square root of 41 over 4. Right, so that's what this plus or minus means. It means here we've got two different solutions. This would be one, this would be the second one. All right, I would like you to do this one on your own. Right, so please go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and solve this one using the quadratic formula. Okay, let's check your work. All right, so we're going to plug into our quadratic formula. Okay, so first of all, we need our b value, the opposite of our b value. So our b value is -5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's the same thing, -5, minus 4 times the a value is 3, and then our c value is -4. All of that divided by 2 times a, our a value is 3. All right, let's simplify this. So here, the opposite of -5, that's +5. Plus or minus the square root of all this, this is 25. And then right here, -4 times 3 is -12. -12 times -4 is +16. I'm sorry, +48. Sorry about that. Divided by 6. Okay, so we end up with this, 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 all over 6. Okay, and again, make sure you understand that this means 5 plus the square root of 73 over 6, or x could be equal to 5 minus the square root of 73 over 6. All right, we're going to look at one last example. All right, so on this one, one thing I want you to notice is that we don't have our equation in standard form yet. Right? Before you use quadratic formula, you want to make sure that you have your equation equal to 0 on one side. So to start this one off, I'm going to add 13 to both sides. So now we have our equation is x squared plus 4x plus 13 equals 0. Right? So you always want to have 0 on one side of your equation. All right, let's go ahead and plug into our quadratic formula. Okay, so our b value this time is 4, so the opposite of 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so this is going to be 4 squared, minus 4 times our a value, this time our a value is 1, times our c value of 13, all divided by 2 times a, our a value is 1. So we end up here with -4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared is 16, and then -4 times 1 is -4, and -4 times 13 is -52, all divided by 2. All right, let's keep going. So on this one we have -4 plus or minus the square root 16 minus 52. That is -36. Okay, all divided by 2. All right, now on this one, we can actually simplify this even further. Right, take a look right here. We have the square root of -36. We can take the square root of that. Right, it's going to be an imaginary number. Right, in fact, that would be -4 plus or minus here. Square root of -36 is 6i. So now we have this, -4 plus or minus 6i divided by 2. Okay. All right, now how do we simplify this? I want you to realize here that both the -4 and this 6i are being divided by 2. Right? So essentially, this becomes -4 divided by 2 plus or minus 6i divided by 2. Or we can simplify that as -2 plus or minus 3i. right? And that right there is our answer. Okay? And again, you could, if you want to, rewrite this the other way. Negative 2 plus 3i, that's one answer. Or x could be equal to negative 2 minus 3i. Right? Both of these are good ways to write this.